What is childhood anyway? We might think that we know. So let's look at some current definitions of childhood. The period during which a person is a child, the idealized world of childhood. Childhood is the time for children to be at school and at play, to grow strong and confident with the love and encouragement of their family and an extended community of caring adults. It is a precious time in which children should live free from fear, safe from violence, and protected from abuse and exploitation. However, this idea has not always been a reality, especially when we go back to a particular time and place in history, which we're going to do today. You see, childhood can be this, but also this, and this, and this, and this, and this. So what is childhood anyway? Is it a natural stage of life that's the same for everybody? Well, that's definitely not true. There are too many different roles that children have had to play and too many things they've had to do throughout history. Is it just this social construct that doesn't even have any reality at all, or is it something completely different? So today I'm going to talk about the invention of childhood through the social and economic role of child labor in the Industrial Revolution and Victorian Age in Britain, and what it tells us about childhood today, a brief discussion. It's important to say at the beginning that in some ways children have always worked. They've always contributed to the family economy in some way. This might include helping on the farm, handicrafts, family businesses, girls learning how to run a household. Even the upper classes had to learn how to be the lord or lady of the manor. Let's take a look at a rural Yorkshire household in the late 18th century, which is just before the time and place that we're going to talk about today. In fact, right before the Industrial Revolution. Families lived in small rural communities. Weaving, for example, was a cottage industry. The whole family chipped in. You can see a picture of a hand loom, which is what they used to use. The finished pieces were picked up by traveling agents. The work hours were long, but the pay was good for the entire family. There was time and opportunity for children to play, enough food, a healthier atmosphere. This pre-industrial situation shouldn't be romanticized because it had a lot of problems of its own, but it was better for working families and especially for children. But then it all changed. The Industrial Revolution actually began in Britain, which is one of the main reasons why we're using this as an example. It happened over a long period of time in two stages in the late 18th and 19th centuries. Textile manufacture was revolutionized, iron and steel production was modernized, the steam engine was developed, canals and then railroads developed and built, new communication methods like the telegraph. The cotton gin was developed in the US, which supplied much more raw material for textile mills in Britain. It all led to an explosion in growth for the middle class and the new rich, but for the working classes, this meant child labor of a kind that had never existed before. Why did the situation change? Well, the new inventions and factories and mines led to consumer demand, new products, new markets. The population of Britain tripled during the 19th century. Even though there were more jobs, there was much more competition for those jobs. More families moved to cities or industrial areas like Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, and London. And industrialization meant that adult and especially male strength was not needed for a long time for most mechanized jobs. Factory, mill, and mine owners preferred to hire women and children whenever possible. The result was that for the first time, child labor was a vital part of the larger economy, not just for families. It is important to say that not all children needed to work. There was a rapidly growing middle class that just didn't require the income of child labor. And then, of course, there were the children of the upper classes from families with brand new and old money. They learned how to run and administer large estates, sometimes kingdoms. That's Queen Victoria's family. The girls learned the proper female roles to support their husbands, both in new big business and the traditional hereditary aristocracy. Here's a list of how and where children worked. We're going to go over many of these, but as you can see, there's a child coal miner, and we will be talking about that. Not our jobs were terrible, which is important to say. The luckiest child workers had jobs with a future. Like traditional apprenticeships in the trades, they trained in successful family businesses. Girls learned to run households, family farms. One example in the cities was newsboys. But for everyone else, it wasn't so great. Child labor was universal in some fields. Up to 50% of all workers in British factories were children during the Industrial Revolution. In 1870 in the US, there were over 750,000 children working outside the home. And yes, we're going to talk about child coal miners. However, we're going to pick up with part 2.